I've always loved thrill rides. The rush of adrenaline, the way my stomach flips on roller coasters. It's exhilarating. My boyfriend Liam shares the same passion, which is one of the reasons we work so well together. For our second anniversary, he planned something special. He led me through the amusement park, his hands over my eyes.
No peeking,
He whispered, his breath warm against my ear. I giggled, feeling the electric excitement of the moment. Come on, at least give me a hint,
Patience.
he teased.
It'll be worth it.
After a few minutes, he stopped.
All right.
He said.
Wait here. I just need to set something up.
I laughed. Fine, but don't leave me waiting too long. Then, silence. The sounds of the amusement park buzzed around me. Distant laughter, the clanking of machinery, the occasional whoosh of a roller coaster. But as minutes passed, my excitement began to wane. He was taking too long. I shifted on my feet. Liam? Nothing. A strange silence crept in, swallowing the noise of the park. Then, a soft dragging sound, like something limping toward me. I smiled uneasily. Liam, quit messing around. The sound grew closer, slow, uneven. Then it stopped. A cold, suffocating stillness settled over me. The fine hairs on my arms rose. I wasn't alone. I hesitated before opening my eyes, expecting to see the bright lights of the amusement park. But everything was dark. The once vibrant park was now eerily abandoned. The carousel stood lifeless, its horses frozen mid-gallop. Rides that should have been full of screams and laughter were motionless. And in front of me stood a man. No, something that used to be a man. His body was thin and twisted, one leg dragging behind him as if it were broken. His head tilted at an unnatural angle, face stretched into a distorted grin. His eyes, sunken and empty, locked onto mine. My breath caught. I took a step back. He took one forward. A sickening squelch accompanied his movement, as if his bones weren't connected properly. Then he lunged. I turned and ran. The air felt thick, suffocating. My feet pounded against the pavement as I darted past the abandoned booths and empty rides. I didn't dare look back. Then, blackness. A hand covered my eyes, yanking me to a halt. I screamed, struggling, but then...
Shh! Hey! It's okay! It's just me!
Liam, I gasped as the blindfold was gently removed. The lights of the amusement park burst into view, dazzling and vibrant. Music played, people laughed, and the air smelled of popcorn and cotton candy. I turned, seeing Liam's familiar warm smile.
You okay? I think you got a little overwhelmed. But don't worry, I have the perfect way to make it up to you.
I forced a weak laugh. Maybe I had imagined everything. Maybe it was part of some haunted attraction, and my mind had tricked me. Liam pointed at the roller coaster, our favorite ride.
Come on, just one ride.
Despite my lingering unease, I nodded. The roller coaster car locked us in. As it ascended, I started to relax. Liam squeezed my hand, and for a moment everything felt normal again. Then, as we plunged into the first drop, I saw it. Among the trees lining the tracks, a head, human, severed, was nailed to a trunk. Its eyes were wide open, staring right at me. Its mouth hung slack, lips twisted in a silent scream. My stomach turned to ice. Liam, did you see that? The head!
What head?
He frowned, laughing.
You're seeing things again.
The ride sped up, the wind howling around us. But when we should have returned to the station, the coaster didn't slow down. It kept going, loop after loop, turn after turn. My body pressed into the seat, my skin stretching back unnaturally from the force. The wind felt sharper, harsher. Then, I felt something shift. My cheeks started to pull away from my skull. The wind wasn't just strong, it was peeling me apart. Liam sat beside me, completely unchanged, smiling. I tried to reach for him, to make him stop the ride, but my arms had elongated into ribbons of flesh, stretching further with every loop. The ride never stopped. I turned to Liam, eyes wide with terror. "Liam, please, make it stop!" He tilted his head slightly as if confused. Then finally he spoke.
I thought you loved thrill rides. It will stop.
The ride surged forward once more, and as the wind ripped away the last remnants of my human form, I realized I was never getting off. And my boyfriend, was he truly oblivious? Or had he planned this all along?
I can't remember how many times I've had this dream, but the fear and helplessness still make my heart ache. That's right, I'm terrified, absolutely haunted by spiders. As a child, I lived on my dad's insect farm, surrounded by spiders. The fear nearly gave me a fatal heart attack, leading my parents to divorce. Now, I live with my mum. My graduation is soon, but Dad didn't reply to my invitation. His last email, 2 weeks ago, proudly announced his success with mutant spider research. I have a bad feeling something went wrong with my dad's research. I've decided to go to his farm and make sure he's safe. It's been almost 10 years since I last set foot in this house. The house was pitch dark, damp, and eerily silent, with only my voice echoing as I cautiously called out, "Dad!" There was just one place left to check. Taking a deep breath, I tried to suppress my fear and turned the doorknob. Suddenly, a swarm of black spiders scurried out from behind the door. My body froze, trembling as I collapsed to the floor. At that moment, someone stepped out of the basement. It was my dad, George, the biologist, silently blowing a strange flute that sent the spiders retreating into the basement. Dad helped me up, his frail hand pale with black veins and dark, sharp hairs like a spider's bristles. Something was definitely wrong with him.
Why are you here, Jax?
I handed him the invitation card. He took it without a word, his cold demeanor cutting deep. Then I noticed something stuck on his eye. Instinctively, I reached out to remove it. It was a strand of spider silk, not something accidentally caught in his eye, but something coming from inside it. Dad jerked back, clearly annoyed by my actions, and rubbed his eye. The strand of silk disappeared without a trace. "Dad, my car broke down. Can I stay here for the night?"
Fine. But stay in your room. Don't wander around.
Seeing Dad's odd behavior, I knew something was wrong, likely because of the spiders. I made an excuse to stay and find out. As a meticulous researcher, I figured Dad would have recorded his entire experiment. I was right. Taking a deep breath, I opened the first folder. Skipping the confusing reports, I clicked on the first video, and it terrified me. The clip showed a female spider carrying an enormous egg sac. The spider screamed in pain, like a woman about to give birth. But spiders lay eggs, don't they? My suspicions were quickly confirmed. I watched as a massive baby spider broke out of the egg, dragging its mother's insides with it. The hungry spider rushed to its first meal, while the mother lay weak, helpless, and still as her young devoured her. It was so cold-blooded, so cruel. It was more disgusting than any spider or monster I had ever imagined. It took me a moment to regain my composure. I opened the final video, but what I saw was even worse. I was sure this spider was no longer a normal creature. Thinking about how this mutated spider had been born, I feared for my dad. What would happen when those eggs hatched? Suddenly, my dad appeared in front of me, his face furious.
Jax, what are you doing here?
I forced down my fear and rushed to tear off his shirt, hoping what I had seen was just a scene from a sci-fi movie. But I was wrong. These spiders were more dangerous than I had imagined. Each egg was stuck to my dad's skin, with a tiny tentacle piercing his spine. They were living and growing off his spinal fluid. The fear in my chest grew stronger, and I felt dizzy, my hands and legs trembling uncontrollably. Looking up at my dad, I noticed his eyes were slowly turning into those of a spider. I heard him gasp and scream at me.
Run, get out of here!
He still had his mind, he still cared for me. I had to save him, telling myself that. I grabbed a ruler from the desk and rushed toward him. I shoved him to the ground, using all my strength to crush the eggs on his back. One by one, they cracked open and the baby spiders fell, filling the air with the scent of blood and a foul odor. Suddenly, my dad erupted with strength. He shoved me off, screaming,
Don't hurt my children!
"You've lost it, Dad! I'm your son! I'll save you from these monsters!" I yelled, only to realize, in shock, that the man in front of me was no longer the dad I knew. He had fully transformed into a monster. He shielded the baby spiders like a true mother spider, glaring at me as though I were an enemy trying to harm his offspring. The look in his eyes caused me pain and despair. What could I do to save him? But it was too late. The monster, now enormous and with all the terrifying traits of a spider, stood before me. My body froze, even breathing felt difficult, and my heart began to ache again. My dad's agonizing scream jolted me back. I turned to see the newborn spiders, driven by instinct, making him their first meal. Survival instinct drove me to run. I tried to drag my dad with me, but it was already too late. I'm a microbiologist. My specialty? Fungal and viral mutations. If it's gross, dangerous, or involves things sprouting out of places they shouldn't, I'm your guy. It's a dream job. If your dreams include endless pressure, angry bosses, and occasionally dodging test subjects that want to eat your face. Most days, I wanted to curl into a ball and scream, but instead I trudged on, wearing my lab coat like a cape of martyrdom. Then one day, I thought, what if I didn't have to? The idea hit me like a runaway pipette. What if I turned myself into one of those creatures? Temporarily, of course. I'd be too sick to work, collect my occupational hazard insurance, and finally relax. Bonus: nobody could yell at a guy with mutant claws. Thus began the project. I concocted a gas designed to mutate human bodies for 3 days. The fungal compound would dissolve and reconfigure tissue, creating temporary, horrifying mutations before self-destructing. Side effects included mild swelling and a rash, basically the flu with an extra dose of nightmare fuel. Perfect for taking a break without worrying about anyone dying. Step 1. Test it on myself, because that's always the best idea, right? I dipped my finger into the glass jar containing the gas. At first, nothing happened. Then, everything happened. The skin on my finger turned black, sprouting tiny fungal threads that twisted and curled like they had a vendetta. My veins popped like black lightning bolts, and my hand ballooned into a grotesque claw. The pain was intense. But an hour later, it was over. My hand was back to normal, save for some itchy redness. I even high-fived myself with my non-mutated hand for pulling it off. The plan was working. By lunchtime, everything was ready. I figured I'd reward myself with a nice last meal before my vacation. A bowl of pho never tasted so good. When I got back, though, something was wrong. The capsule was locked. Inside was Min, my overly curious colleague, slumped over like he'd just taken a really bad nap. My stomach dropped faster than my high school GPA. The idiot must have activated the gas while snooping around. "Min!" I shouted, banging on the glass. No response. And then he moved. His body spasmed as fungal veins crept across his skin. His limbs contorted, his jaw unhinged, and his head grew. A massive, mushroom-like structure burst from his skull, spraying spores across the pod. Min, buddy, you okay?" He roared. The pod door hissed open and Min stepped out, or what was left of him. His claws scraped the floor as he lumbered forward, a terrifying mix of rage and confusion. "Okay, let's not do anything rash," I stammered, backing away. He didn't listen. One swipe of his oversized arm sent my lab bench flying. I dodged and bolted for the control panel, slamming the emergency lockdown button. The lab door sealed shut with a satisfying clang. No way was I letting the boss find out. If this got out, I'd be buried in work, overtime, and pay cuts. This mess was mine to fix. Unfortunately, Min wasn't a fan of locked doors. He pounded on the reinforced glass, cracks spiderwebbing with each hit. I needed a plan. Fast. Grabbing a fire extinguisher, I crept toward him. The second he broke through, I let loose a blizzard of foam, momentarily blinding him. He howled, swiping wildly, but I managed to activate the decontamination system. Gas filled the room, designed to neutralize pathogens and hopefully raging mushroom men. For a moment, it worked. Min staggered, coughing and wheezing. I started to breathe again. But then he adapted, because of course he did. Great. Desperation hit. My eyes darted to the capsule, the one thing that could even the odds. If I mutated myself, I might stand a chance. I sprinted for it, sliding into the pod like an action hero. But when I hit the activation button, nothing happened. Sparks flew from the control panel. Min's earlier rampage had severed the power supply. Of course! Why not? I slumped in the pod, exhausted. Min stalked closer, his heavy breaths filling the room. I closed my eyes, ready to accept my fate. But then, salvation arrived. The lab door burst open, and a team of security guards stormed in. They shot Min with tranquilizer darts and hit him with electrified nets. He thrashed and roared. But eventually, the beast went down. As the guards dragged Min away, my boss showed up, hitting me with their signature line.
Care to explain what the hell just happened here?
I gave a weak thumbs up. Science experiment? You'd think my problems ended there, but no. First, I was stuck writing a mountain of incident reports. Then, I was ordered to develop a cure for Min while taking over his workload. After a week of sleepless nights and more caffeine than any human should consume, I finally cracked it. Min was cured, though he wasn't thrilled about the whole mutant mushroom thing. Fair. As for me, I learned an important lesson. Sometimes taking a break is better than accidentally turning your coworker into a murder machine. But hey, at least I didn't have to dodge test subjects this week. Small victories.
Lucid dreaming had always fascinated me. The idea of controlling my dreams, bending reality to my will, was exhilarating. I spent hours reading guides, watching videos, and joining forums to learn the craft. One recurring warning, however, intrigued me the most. Never look into a mirror while lucid dreaming. It was a rule repeated in countless posts. People claimed mirrors in dreams were portals to places your mind couldn't comprehend. But rules were meant to be broken, weren't they? That night, as I drifted off to sleep, I whispered to myself, "This is a dream. I am in control." When I opened my eyes, I stood in a crumbling mansion. The air was heavy, tinged with damp rot. The walls groaned as if alive. Every instinct screamed at me to leave, but I had a mission. I wandered through the dim corridors until I found it. An ornate mirror framed in black and silver, taller than me, standing against the far wall. My reflection was hazy, shifting like water. I hesitated, but curiosity pushed me forward. As I peered closer, the surface of the mirror rippled. My reflection vanished, replaced by something else. A scene unfolded before me, fiery chaos. Rivers of molten lava flowed through a barren landscape. Faceless figures writhed in agony, their silent screams haunting. The heat felt real, blistering my skin. Suddenly, the mirror pulled at me, its surface like a vortex. My feet slid forward. Panic surged, and I yanked myself back, knocking the mirror over. It shattered into countless shards, each reflecting fragments of the hellish scene. When I turned around, she was there. Her skin was pallid, almost translucent, veins spidering beneath. Her eyes were empty voids pulling at my very soul.
"Leave!"
She hissed, her voice echoing in the empty house.
"Leave now, or regret it forever!"
Before I could react, the dream collapsed into darkness. I woke up gasping, my heart pounding. The room was familiar, comforting, but the dream's intensity lingered. "It was just a dream," I muttered, trying to convince myself. My phone buzzed. A last-minute work trip. I had to leave immediately. The journey was uneventful until the taxi pulled up at my lodging for the night. A small, secluded inn. My stomach twisted as I stepped out. The inn was the house from my dream. Every detail matched. The cracked paint, the warped wooden door, even the oppressive air. An older woman greeted me with a kind smile.
"Welcome, dear. Let me take your bags. You must be tired."
Her face was eerily familiar. The same hollow eyes, the same pale complexion. "Thank you," I mumbled, my voice shaking. Inside, the house was even worse. Shadows seemed to stretch unnaturally, and the silence was deafening. The woman led me to the living room and gestured toward the sofa.
"Rest well,"
she said, her smile lingering a moment too long. That's when I saw it. The mirror. It stood in the corner, identical to the one from my dream. My knees went weak. I turned to her, my voice trembling. "Where did you get that mirror?" She tilted her head, her smile never wavering.
"Oh, it's always been here."
She left, and I stared at the mirror, paralyzed. It was just a coincidence, I told myself, though deep down, I knew better. Minutes later, she returned with a tray.
"Tea?"
she offered. I took the cup, my hands shaking. She watched me, waiting. Something about her gaze felt wrong, predatory. Her smile stretched a little too wide, her eyes lingering on me too long. My fingers trembled as I held the cup, every instinct screaming at me not to drink. With a sharp motion, I flung the tea at her. The cup shattered and she recoiled, her face twisting with something unhumanly sinister. Without waiting to see what would happen next, I bolted. Outside, I flagged down a passing taxi, my hands shaking as I climbed in. As the car sped away, relief began to replace my fear. I had escaped, or so I thought. The road was empty, shrouded in a thick fog that seemed to swallow everything beyond a few meters. Suddenly, a figure appeared in the middle of the road. The driver swerved to avoid her, but the car skidded and crashed into a tree. My head slammed against the window, and the world blurred. When I came to, the driver was gone. I was alone in the wreck, surrounded by suffocating silence. Then she appeared, the pale woman, standing just beyond the shattered windshield.
Death is inevitable.
She whispered, her voice echoing in the stillness. I scrambled out of the car, running blindly through the fog until I stumbled upon a small, unlit house. The door was unlocked, and I threw myself inside, slamming it shut behind me. The house was eerily quiet, each room draped in shadows. As I opened a door at the end of the hallway, I froze. There I was, lying on a bed, my chest rising and falling as though in sleep. Is this still a dream? Or am I... Before I could finish, the pale woman materialized behind me.
You've already crossed the line. There's no going back.
I turned to her, my mind racing. If this was a dream, I could wake myself up. I lunged toward my sleeping form, desperate to return to my body. But she was faster. Her icy grip closed around my wrist, dragging me backward.
No one escapes their fate.
She hissed. I struggled, kicking and screaming, but her strength was inhuman. Her stomach stretched impossibly wide, revealing an abyss of darkness. With one final pull, she swallowed me whole.
Finally done. Now this old house is ready to welcome its new owner. Hopefully the new tenant won't get too attached to it. I'm Susan, a real estate agent, but all the houses I deal with are old properties rumoured to be haunted. Why? Because we're not after rental commissions. What we really want is the deposit money from unlucky tenants. Tenants who can't handle the ghosts I personally create to scare them away. I'm absolutely confident about this scam. This old house has stood for over 70 years and is decorated in a Gothic style. Despite surviving a fire, the house remains mostly intact. This time, the tenant has paid a hefty amount to rent the entire mansion. So I've meticulously prepared everything to welcome my special guest, and I'm hoping he'll flee from this mansion soon enough. My client this time was a man named Paul. He was pretty young, but his way of dressing was, well, a bit odd. He carefully inspected the house, and while he was at it, I quietly observed him too. His suitcase was compact, but he also carried a bag filled with random stuff. Looking closer, I noticed a few exorcism tools inside, silver daggers, holy water, and a crucifix. Looks like I've run into another religious fanatic, I thought to myself. Paul suddenly asked,
Are you Christian too? That rosary you're wearing looks quite special.
I was caught off guard but quickly brushed it off. Yeah, my family's Christian. My aunt's even a nun. I glanced at the rosary and explained, it's a gift from her. But honestly, I just wear it as an accessory. Paul agreed to sign the rental contract on the spot. I smirked inwardly.
Looks like this deal is going to be a smooth one.
Before Paul moved in, I secretly installed hidden cameras around the house to monitor his every move and plan my scare tactics. Watching Paul sleep soundly, I smiled with excitement and began my first night of work. A terrifying scream startled Paul awake, making him look anxiously towards the window. At that moment, I vaguely saw his eyes light up. The window had handprints made of glowing water, a bit of red light, and a horrifying scream from the Bluetooth speaker, creating a spooky scene. I eagerly waited for Paul's reaction, but he seemed unfazed and went back to sleep. Looks like I underestimated him, but no worries, the fun is just beginning. The next day, I printed a picture of a human head, put it in a jar, and placed it in the fridge. I sat in front of my computer anxiously waiting for Paul's reaction, but Paul didn't seem scared at all. He looked straight into the camera and bluntly exposed my prank. I also tied a fake ghost made of white cloth to a string, making it fly in the hallway. Watching Paul's reaction, I couldn't help but suspect he was expecting something truly scary to appear. But whatever the reason, one thing is certain. He has no intention of leaving anytime soon, and I won't give up that easily either. This time, I decided to scare Paul myself. I snuck into the house with a spare key, carrying a large human skeleton model. But as soon as I entered, I saw a charred skeleton rushing towards me. Instinctively, I tried to use the remote to stop it, but it was clearly not one of my controllable props. I had encountered a real ghost. My whole body froze, and I tried my best to scream for help. In my desperation, Paul appeared and splashed holy water on the skeleton, making it scream in agony. I stared in shock at Paul and the skeleton, letting Paul drag me away. Paul calmly drew a strange circle and said,
I am an exorcist. This house once belonged to an English landlord who killed many slaves and fed their hearts to his daughter, believing it would cure her heart disease. I will perform a ritual to help their souls find peace.
I scoffed. You're joking, right? This is just another one of your pranks. Paul didn't argue and splashed holy water in my eyes. Suddenly, my vision cleared. Around me, dozens of ghosts appeared, their faces twisted, eyes burning with hatred. They were all staring at me. I felt like my 27-year-old worldview suddenly collapsed. I wanted Paul to say something to me, but he was focused on his exorcism. The ghost of the landlord seemed to sense the danger. He used the mirror to command the slave ghosts to break Paul's protective circle. I was confused about how to help Paul. Suddenly, the wound on my hand heated up. My arm was being controlled. I remembered the wound was caused by that ancient mirror. The landlord must be using it to control me and harm Paul. Just as my fingers were about to pierce Paul's artery, Paul suddenly opened his eyes, stopped my hand, and grabbed my rosary. With just the rosary beads, Paul easily destroyed all the screaming ghosts around us. As I was about to run to hug Paul, a chilling sensation enveloped me. A strange voice echoed in my head.
Finally, that pesky rosary is gone. Now this body will be mine.
I looked in horror at my transparent body. It turned out they had been targeting my body all along, but I was always protected by the rosary. The landlord sacrificed his soul to trick Paul into breaking my rosary so his daughter could possess my body. I tried to scream for Paul's help, but it seemed no one could hear me. Is this the price I have to pay for exploiting ghosts for my own gain?
Helen, that's enough. How long are you going to keep up this boring joke?
Knock, knock, knock.
Helen, the woman I'd loved and lived with for 3 years, looked like a stranger. Her face was empty, her eyes hollow, like a lifeless mask. What do you want? My voice cracked, a mix of anger and fear. Helen didn't answer. She just stared at me and spoke.
Knock, knock, knock.
Those 3 words, repeated in a cold, steady rhythm, sent chills down my spine. I couldn't take it anymore. Grabbing my pillow and blanket, I left the suffocating room. This was the 4th night in a row she'd woken me up at exactly 3:27 a.m. I texted an old friend from college, now a psychologist, explaining the strange things happening to Helen. His reply shocked me. Had something really happened to Helen? I decided to tell him everything, holding nothing back. Everything began 4 days ago. We were sleeping together as usual when Helen shook me awake. At exactly 3:27 a.m., she started this strange knock, knock, knock game. I thought she'd just woken up from a bad dream and wanted me to comfort her. So, half asleep, I played along. Who's there? Is it my beloved Helen?
It's not me, so don't open the door.
After her cryptic reply, Helen fell asleep as if nothing happened. The next morning she seemed normal, but at 3:27 a.m., she woke up and repeated it all. The response from my friend left me stunned. I tried to justify it, but his reply was firm, almost certain. I couldn't deny it anymore. In that moment, my trust in Helen began to waver. I shut my laptop and tried to get some rest, but those doubts had already taken root, digging deeper into my mind. In the end, curiosity and doubt won. Helen's sudden appearance unsettled me, but her blank expression only fueled my irritation. I actually set up a hidden camera in the house to spy on my girlfriend. Helen and I were in a cold war. She didn't bother to explain or apologize. That night I couldn't sleep. My nerves were on edge, my heartbeat slowing, steadying, sinking with each tick of the clock. I could almost predict the exact moment it would hit 3:27 a.m. And then, as if caught in an endless, suffocating loop, it all happened again. My patience with Helen had reached its limit. This time, I decided to act. I was going to make her stop. I tied Helen to the bed, gagging her with a strip of cloth. I wanted to see if, without my response, without being able to continue her game, she could just shut up and sleep like a normal person. The house was eerily quiet, except for the steady ticking of the clock. I couldn't sleep, so I decided to review the footage from my hidden camera. What I saw made my blood run cold. The Helen in the recordings was unrecognizable. She looked like Helen, but her movements were robotic, stiff, lifeless, like a puppet with its strings being pulled. I had to admit it. Helen was no longer Helen. Or worse, she might not even be human anymore. Suddenly, 3 heavy knocks shattered the silence. Knock, knock, knock. Then a voice, unmistakably hers, called out from behind the door.
Eddie, it's me, Helen.
Her voice was so real. Too real. I checked the front door camera, needing to confirm if it was really her. And there she was. Helen, the real Helen, crying and begging for me to let her in.
Eddie, please, let me in. That thing in there. It's the imposter.
My whole body trembled. If she was outside, then what was lying in my bed? I turned around and froze. Helen, or rather the thing pretending to be her, was standing just a few steps away, staring at me with empty eyes. I forced myself to stay calm. My friend had sent me some tools to prepare for this. Among them was a high-frequency audio file, which I quickly played. It worked. I had identified my enemy as an alternate, so a powerful UV flashlight would be useful. The alternate was trying to stop me from opening the door, and it could no longer maintain Helen's form. It appeared before me with a grotesque, twisted body. As the light from the flashlight hit it, its body distorted, its features melting into a blurry mass. It was no longer Helen. It had turned into a flickering white shadow. I remembered what my friend had told me. Between 3 and 4 a.m., the boundary between worlds is thinnest. I had to bring the real Helen back before it was too late. The door swung open as if revealing another dimension. Blinding light and a cacophony of chaotic sounds rushed at me, overwhelming my senses and leaving me dizzy. I held my breath, anxiously staring at the door, waiting for what would come next. Finally, I let out a sigh of relief. My Helen was back.
Eddie!
Helen, I missed you so much.
I miss you too.
This is a slander!
I am Zahn, a horrifying reversal of our sacred cycle. The Queen declared war. She would not allow our perfection to be tarnished, our legacy trampled by such fragile, chaotic beings. Yet as the hive roared in agreement, I remained silent. Later, in the solitude of my alcove, I replayed the film's imagery. The agony of the xenomorph on the screen, the human writhing its way out. It haunted me. I could almost feel the searing pain, the unnatural violation of the cycle. Why did the humans hate us so? Were they so blind to their own violence that they couldn't see their actions mirrored in ours? For the first time, I felt something foreign. Empathy, the pain, the violation. Was this how the humans felt as we seeded them? Their fear, their screams. It was not so different from what I imagined in that moment. When I approached the Queen, my claws trembled with trepidation. "We should negotiate," I said, my voice low. "Their fear drives them. Perhaps we can stop this before more blood is shed." Her massive form turned toward me, her glistening skull tilting in a silent challenge. The hive murmured in disbelief.
Negotiate? With prey?
Her voice was a venomous hiss. "With equals," I dared to reply. The silence that followed was suffocating. Yet after a long moment, she relented.
Very well, Zarn. You will go as our emissary. But make no mistake, if you fail, war will follow.
I was to lead a small group to the human world, to negotiate where no other drone had dared. My chest swelled with determination. I would bridge the divide between our species. We arrived on the human world under a veil of caution, my team moving silently through their metal constructs. The humans were fragile, soft, yet clever. Their fear was palpable, and I could feel their weapons trained on us even if they remained unseen. I began the negotiation, my words clicking and hissing through the translation device we had scavenged. The humans listened, their expressions inscrutable. But they treated us well, gave us private rooms to rest and eat. For a brief moment, I thought peace might be possible. Then the attack came. A sharp sting pierced the base of my spine. My limbs grew heavy, my vision blurred, and darkness consumed me. The last thing I saw was a human holding a needle-like device, its tip gleaming with ichor. I woke with a start, the memory of the ambush lingering like a bitter taste. My body felt strange but intact. Had it been a dream? A fabrication of my overworked mind? My team gathered around me, their concern evident. To reassure them, and myself, I joined them for nourishment. The food was bitter, but it steadied me. For a moment, I almost believed everything was normal. Then it began. A cough racked my body, sharp and violent. My claws scraped at the table as I doubled over. My team surrounded me, their clicks urgent with alarm.
Zarn, what is wrong?
I couldn't answer. Pain lanced through my abdomen, a searing, unnatural agony. Something was moving inside me. They laid me on a table, their clicks frantic with concern. My limbs thrashed as the thing inside me shifted, writhing with unnatural intent. I clawed at my own chest, desperate to stop the growing pressure. It surged upward, twisting, tearing. Then, with a sickening crack, my chest exploded. I let out a guttural scream as a human, pale, pink and glistening, erupted from my chest, drenched in my ichor. The room fell silent. Then chaos erupted. The hive recoiled in horror.
It's inside him!
One of them hissed. The human let out a guttural cry, its fragile limbs trembling as it stood. My vision blurred, the pain overwhelming. My body felt hollow, violated, and still I watched. The hive erupted into chaos. My team grabbed their weapons, their rage a tangible force. The human, impossibly small yet unyielding, dodged their strikes, darting through the shadows like a spectre. I lay on the table, my strength fading, my ichor pooling beneath me. Yet my mind was alight with realization. This was their plan all along. Not just to kill us, but to become us, to corrupt the cycle itself. I struggled to rise, my claws trembling as I grabbed a communicator. "Report to the Queen," I rasped, my voice a fractured whisper. "Prepare the hive for war." Through the haze of pain, I watched as my team clashed with the human. Their movements were mirror images, their violence indistinguishable. It was then I understood the terrible truth. We and the humans were not so different, both bound by instinct, both trapped in cycles of destruction. This was no longer about survival, it was about annihilation. The war would come, and it would consume us all, and in the end, neither species would win, only violence would remain, echoing through the stars. When I first started working at La Belle Cuisine, I thought I had a chance to prove myself in the world of high-end culinary arts. But dreams have a way of souring in the harsh reality of kitchen life. Instead of plating delicate entrees or learning the secrets of fine sauces, I found myself relegated to gorying task, peeling mountains of potatoes. The kitchen's damp environment seeped into my skin, turning it rough, scabbed and unrecognizable. Chef Laurent was the worst. His booming voice echoed through the kitchen, barking orders and criticisms with no regard for who was in his path. I was his favorite target.
"Paul!"
he bellowed one afternoon, slamming a wooden spoon on the counter.
"Even a monkey could peel faster than you. Are your hands broken?"
The other cooks laughed. My cheeks burned, but I kept my head down, fingers trembling as I worked the peeler. Every day was the same. The final straw came during a staff tasting. I'd spent weeks experimenting with recipes after hours, crafting a dish I hoped would finally earn me some recognition. When Laurent announced a tasting session, I seized the opportunity and presented my creation, foie gras. Laurent took one bite and spat into the dish.
Garbage,
he declared.
Stick to peeling potatoes. That's all you're good for.
Laughter erupted again, louder this time. My vision blurred with tears, but I swallowed them back. I smiled and nodded, but inside, something cracked. That night, alone in the kitchen, I stared at the pile of peelings I'd left unfinished. The steel glint of the peeler caught my eye, and my reflection stared back, warped and jagged. Then Laurent's voice echoed in my head.
Stick to peeling.
I'd been slaving for months, bending over backward for Laurent, only to be humiliated time and time again. If all he saw in me was someone to scrape and discard, maybe I'd give him exactly that. I threw myself into peeling, my knife flashing through tuber after tuber, sweat dripping from my brow onto the growing mound of mashed potatoes. My hands, calloused from relentless labor, began to ache. Without realizing it, the blade slipped, slicing through one of the hardened calluses on my palm. The sliver of skin fell onto the pile of potatoes, almost indistinguishable from the starchy flesh. I froze, staring at the tiny piece of myself nestled among the mash. An idea took root in my mind, grotesque yet irresistible. What if? Driven by exhaustion and a twisted sense of rebellion, I picked up the peeler. Slowly, deliberately, I shaved off another patch of rough skin. The pain was sharp but fleeting, and the satisfaction of reclaiming control was exhilarating. I examined it, transfixed. It was almost poetic, the way my own body could be reduced to nothing but scraps, just like the potatoes, just like Laurent wanted. I mixed the pieces into the mash, seasoning it with salt, pepper, and herbs. The next day, the dish was a hit. Customers raved about the unique depth of the mashed potatoes, praising Laurent for his ingenuity. He basked in the accolades, his chest puffed out with pride, while I stood in the shadows, silently savoring my secret. But the praise didn't change my position. Laurent continued to belittle me, taking full credit for the dishes I prepared. Oddly, though, I no longer felt humiliated when peeling potatoes. That night, I stood in front of the mirror, peeling tool in hand. The first time had been an act of rage, but now it felt like power. The kitchen became my domain of transformation. My worsening skin condition provided ample material to mix into the potatoes. Scabs, patches of dry skin, even the occasional drop of blood, all found their way into the mash. With each strip of skin I removed, I felt lighter, freer. I was no longer just Paul, the potato peeler, the kitchen grunt. I'd gather the strips, mix them into the batch of mashed potatoes. I was the secret ingredient, the thing that made their meals unforgettable. The restaurant's reputation soared. Laurent basked in the glory, oblivious to the true source of his newfound success. But my body didn't heal the way I expected. Where I'd peeled, the skin didn't grow back. Instead, strange, pale patches emerged, soft and glistening like raw fish. The pain became a constant hum, but it didn't matter. The dishes were all that mattered. Then, one night, as I prepared another dish, Laurent burst into the kitchen, red-faced.
What is this?
He demanded, slamming a bowl onto the counter. I froze. The broth shimmered with an oily sheen, and tiny pale fragments floated to the surface, pieces I hadn't chopped finely enough.
Explain yourself!
He roared, grabbing my arm. His grip tightened, pulling up my sleeve. The bandages unraveled, revealing the patchwork of raw flesh beneath. His eyes widened in horror.
What have you done?
He whispered, his voice barely audible over the pounding of my heart. I smiled, the first genuine smile I'd felt in months. I've been giving you what you wanted, chef. A piece of me in every dish. Laurent stumbled back, clutching his stomach. His face turned pale as the realization hit. The critic, the patrons, the accolades, all built on the foundation of my sacrifice. He retched, the sound echoing through the silent kitchen. I turned back to the cutting board, the peeler gleaming under the fluorescent lights. There was still so much more to give. I'd been out of work for nearly 2 months. At first, it felt manageable, updating my resume, sending out applications. But the silence that followed began to chip away at me. One rejection turned into 20, and soon I was counting coins to buy instant noodles while dodging calls from my landlord. That's when I saw the ad. It looked outdated, like someone built the site in a rush and never checked it again. But there it was, the Wendy's logo, bright and familiar. Part-time staff needed, weekly pay, immediate start, must follow upper management's instructions. No contact info, no application portal, just a big red apply button. I told myself it was probably just a rural franchise running on outdated tech. I didn't need polished. I needed income. So I clicked. Less than an hour later, they texted me the address. It led to a forgotten corner of town, past rows of broken warehouses and crumbling fences. When I pulled up, I sat in the car for a long moment, just staring. The Wendy's sign was mirrored from inside the glass. The neon lights flickered with a sickly hum. Every window was so caked in grime it looked like they were trying to keep the light out. I reminded myself this wasn't downtown. It was the edge of the city. Places like this were always a little rough around the edges. As long as they paid me, I didn't care what it looked like. So I got out of the car and walked in. The smell hit me first, stale fryer oil clinging to layers of bleach. Then manager stepped out from the back, wearing a stained, faded apron. No greeting, no name, just a cold glance, then silence. He asked for my ID, gave it a quick look, then said,
"You good to start today?"
The speed of it threw me off. No paperwork, no questions, but I needed this. "Yes," I said. He handed me a faded shirt and nodded toward the back.
"You're on kitchen duty. All meat prep comes through you. The freezer's your station now."
The freezer was colder than any I'd ever been in, and it wasn't just the temperature. The air was thick, foul, metallic. The meat wasn't packaged in neat boxes or sealed bags. It was piled in torn plastic sheets, dark liquid leaking from every side into puddles on the floor. Some pieces looked mauled. "I thought Wendy's used fresh beef," I muttered. The manager appeared behind me without a sound.
"We just sell whatever upper management sends us. Don't ask questions."
I should have walked away. But that night he handed me an envelope. Thick, soft, with a stack of cash folded inside. So I came back the next day, and the day after that. The place stayed busy. Drive-through cars looped around the building. Inside, people devoured their meals like they hadn't eaten in days. But after just a few days, customers began to return, their faces pale, their movements slow and shaky. Some burst through the doors, clutching their stomachs, demanding answers, their voices rising with panic. I told the manager, twice, but he didn't flinch, just stared at me with that same unreadable face.
Some people just can't handle it.
Later that night, he handed me another envelope, thicker than the last, warm from his pocket. I should have walked away right then and there, but something held me back. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe it was the image of those sick, helpless people who'd eaten what we served them. I couldn't ignore it anymore. I had to find out where that meat really came from. The next night, when the delivery truck pulled in, I followed it. It drove miles out of town and veered off the road into a fenced compound labeled Dawn Bend Livestock. I parked off-road and climbed through a hole in the fence. There were pens, dozens of them, and inside were cows, if you could still call them that. They twitched and stumbled, barely able to stand, skin flaking, covered in raw patches. Their eyes glowed red, pupils wide and erratic, and the sounds they made. They didn't moo. They screamed, long, high-pitched wails that curdled my spine. Men in hazmat suits moved between the pens, spraying thick chemicals. One of them muttered,
It's too late! The virus is in the marrow!
And then I saw him, my manager, standing at the center of it all. Before I could move, one of the cows saw me. It charged. I turned to run, but the ground gave way beneath me. My feet stuck in the mud. I couldn't breathe. The thing came barreling toward me, and then something slammed into me from the side. The manager, he'd thrown me out of its path. We hit the ground hard. The cow crashed into the fence with a sickening crack, but didn't stop. He grabbed the meat cleaver from the ground and without hesitation brought it down in a single, brutal arc, severing the creature's head. It dropped instantly, its body crumpling into the mud like a sack of ruined flesh. We sat there in the mud, both gasping for breath.
This place used to raise black market cattle, sick animals, mutated strains. We thought we could contain it, but the virus changed. They're not cattle anymore.
Before I could respond, a voice rang out from across the yard.
Inspectors are almost here.
Everything snapped into chaos. The manager tossed me a hazmat suit and told me to put it on. Said it might protect me from whatever this thing was. Then the workers rushed in, brandishing meat cleavers and stun guns, charging the pens. The creatures, if they were still animals at all, screamed as they were slaughtered, blood spraying across the walls, splattering our boots and gloves. I moved with them, helping without thinking, without understanding. Yes, even me. Minutes later, the pens fell silent. Bodies were dragged behind the shed. Bleach flooded the concrete. Everyone worked fast, scrubbing, covering, erasing what had just happened. By the time the inspectors arrived, the farm looked quiet, clean, almost normal. But I wasn't. My skin burned. My throat tightened. Something inside me pulsed, desperate to escape. One inspector approached.
You all right?
I opened my mouth to answer and vomited black sludge straight into his face. Then, everything went black.
the